Now, solo traveling or traveling with a couple. It's not exactly about like what is better or what is worse. No, it's more about the kind of experience you're going to get. And when you travel alone, it's very different when you travel with somebody else. And I will explain you why. Okay, first, when you're traveling with somebody else, it can be a little bit difficult, like to get connections with other people, because when you are two people, you, as a local, for example, I have to split my time with two people at the same time, right? I have to talk with one of them, and then I have to ask questions to the other person. Like, it can be a little bit like that. Like, it's not exactly focusing one person, it's a split. It's not that bad, I think. But when you're traveling alone, the communication can be a little bit more smoother. It can be easier to learn about people. You can ask more questions and you can learn like different kind of skills that involve only the person. And sometimes that when you meet people that are traveling like a couple, you have to learn from both of them and you kind of learn separately, not all in once. And sometimes even you learn how to be a couple or how to travel as a couple. But you know, in my case, my kind of learnings are about for traveling and skills and things that are gonna be very helpful in my life. But I'm not saying that hosting or meeting a couple it can be bad, because one of my best friends that I met in Mexico, they were from the United States and they travel like a couple. It's Elena and Jamie, and they're amazing. I got such an amazing experience with them. But you know, the experiences and the learnings that I got from them, they were totally different from other people that they were traveling alone. Like traveling alone and traveling with a couple can be different, have different learnings. There are some advantages and disadvantages. For example, let's start with solo traveling. When you're traveling alone, as I told you, it's much easier to connect with people because the communication is very fast. Another advantage, the communication one-to-one is always easier. Another advantage, when you are looking for accommodation, is much easier to host one person than two.
Hey, you can stay with us. We'll take care of it.
So more people can accept you on couchsurfing. On, for example, when you are looking for a volunteer job as well, it's much easier to find a work when you are traveling by yourself. As my host in Macedonia told me that he was expecting a person from the UK and she was traveling alone, and then she said like, yeah man, I'm crashing your place with other two people or one people, I don't know. And you know, like he said like, okay, it's a little bit difficult now, so I just can handle with one person. So traveling alone gave me the opportunity like to get this volunteer job. And when you're traveling alone, you learn a lot of things about yourself, because you are taking decisions and you start to get to know what's the best for you and what you like the most. You become more independent. And then, okay, there are some disadvantages. For example, when you are a girl and you are traveling by yourself, it can be a little bit dangerous because you are alone somehow. But don't worry, I'm gonna teach you in this masterclass from Travel Girl how to make this travel as much as possible secure. And also when you're traveling alone, when you get some problems, yeah, you have to resolve these things by yourself. And then you have also some moments where you're alone and then you have to handle with that. But again, we're gonna work throughout all these skills that you have to earn to make these kind of situations much easier to overcome. And basically the adventures of traveling with a person, it comes to you get some support. When you're having a problem, you can resolve them together, you can split the money that you spend. It can be very helpful indeed, as well as you learn different kind of skills. For example, how to coexist with somebody else, how to love, respect, understanding, tolerance another person, because all these values are necessary like to travel with a person. And you can share a lot of stories together. But the disadvantages of traveling as a couple are basically the advantages of traveling alone. So it's a little bit more difficult to communicate with locals because you are two people. And normally when you are interacting with other person, yeah, sometimes you forget to talk to other people. So that's a disadvantage. So yeah, it can be a little bit tricky like to travel with somebody else when you want to meet people. The biggest disadvantage that I find is that you have to wait for people for traveling. Something that doesn't happen when you're traveling by yourself, because when you just say like, yeah, I just want to travel, you just go. That's it. But if you want to travel with somebody else, you have to find somebody that wants to travel as much as you. And if you are planning to make a long-term travel, it can be even more difficult to find somebody who is up to it. In my opinion, for making a cultural travel, you can make it in both ways, but it's much easier to do it alone. Solo traveling knows you a lot of things, and you earn many friends on the way.